Awesome. Well, thanks a lot. My name is Geno. That's easier way to say. It's a long one. So I'm a software engineer at the Wikimedia Foundation part of the Abstract Wiki team. So I'm going to be talking about how Wikidata and Abstract Wiki interact and collaborate now and hopefully also in the future. So this is going to be the agenda for the talk. First, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Abstract Wikipedia's mission, then the tools necessary to accomplish this mission, and then we'll be talking a little bit about the current state and our future roadmap, which is the most exciting part. But before starting with the mission, I just want to mention that the name that I'm putting right there, Abstract Wikipedia, which is the main name we've been using till now, this is not the final one. There's currently a naming contest going on. So after this presentation, I invite you all to go to the meta page for Abstract Wikipedia naming contest. You can suggest names or vote for your favorite ones. That before the 3rd of November. I think that's going to be like the first pre-selection. So yeah, let's go on. Directly behind Abstract Wiki, there's this part of the Wikimedia mission talking about every single human being sharing in the sum of all knowledge. So it's a bit unclear what does all knowledge mean sometimes. Let's see, in Wikipedia today, there's more than 300 languages talking about more than 20 million topics. So we know that this knowledge is not really evenly distributed. This is English Wikipedia, more than 14,000 active users to sustain 7 million articles. But when looking at other smaller wikis, we see that we have less than 100 active users to hold all of the load. This means that whenever there are larger knowledge gaps, there's less resources to cover those gaps. So the idea from before, all knowledge by all languages, is extremely costly. So that's this, like with those estimates, there would be like 6 billion items to create and to maintain, which is a really huge effort. So the idea behind the Abstract Wiki is this one. What if a single contribution can make knowledge available in multiple languages? The way that we do this, we approach this problem in Abstract Wikipedia, is by doing this through a community-driven natural language generation system that can generate language from abstract content. So first, let's just think, what is NLG? NLG is a computational process that produces human language, any kind of human language, in this example, written human language, as an output. Now, this computational system could be anything. There's many systems that accomplish this kind of output, like machine learning, AI-based systems. But what I want to highlight here is the community-driven part. This means that the whole system needs to be owned, editable, and governed by the community. So this would be an example of an output. Jupiter is the 5th planet from the sun and the largest in the solar system. We see this 2 sentences, or these 2 facts, appear in written form as the intro of most Wikipedia articles about Jupiter. So this is an example of English Wiki. We see the same thing in Spanish Wiki, in Basque, in Hindi, same 2 concepts. So the idea is, let's separate the effort to build this into distinct parts. First, you gather the facts about Jupiter and you compile these 2 facts together to build a descriptive idea, some kind of narration that talks about, Jupiter being some size with respect to some other planets. This is what we call abstract content. It is language independent, and this is the common denominator effort for all of these different examples that we saw before. And then, of course, you have to have the linguistic knowledge for each of these languages to represent that abstract concept in those separate wikis. So separating this effort, we cut down the cost in 2 orders of magnitude. So what do we need for this to happen? Here you can see a little bit of the ingredients of this formula. So on one side, we mentioned we have the language independent representation of this idea. This there is language-independent knowledge, ontological knowledge. So the knowledge that Jupiter has certain size and is certain distance from the sun. But also there's this abstract content, which is the narration part, right? Compiling these facts in order to reflect an idea. We could say that Jupiter is a certain size with respect to all of the planets in the universe, but that wouldn't really serve a descriptive purpose. It probably makes more sense to incorporate, a comparison to other planets in the solar system in that abstract content, in that abstract narration that we're designing for this article. And then the other ingredient, which is all the language aware knowledge that convert that idea into language. So there's words, all the lexicographic knowledge there in Wikidata, and then there's what to do with those words. This is the procedural knowledge. And this is what we were mentioning before, those NLG, natural language generation processes or functions. You can see a little logo of Wikifunctions there. We're hinting what we're going to. This is like this, all of these pieces put together and the way that they work. So we have the representation of the abstract content, and that is kind of handled by procedural knowledge, by functions, using the ontological knowledge and the lexicographic knowledge from Wikidata in order to generate the different examples from different language wikis. So let's keep the abstract content aside for a minute and focus on this other part. And this is what I want to talk about as the now, right? Wikifunctions and Wikidata. So first, Wikifunctions, as you might already know or might have guessed, Wikifunctions, it's a Wikimedia project. This is the first project launched since Wikidata in 2012. It was launched 2 years ago. And it is an open source library of reusable functions. So the goal of Wikifunctions is to democratize access to functions, to procedural knowledge. And it does that very different ways. One of them is to provide multilingual content, but not only multilingual from the sense of the human languages, but also in the programming language sense. You can write code in multiple languages, multiple programming languages, like currently Python and JavaScript. In the future, we'll be adding more programming languages as well. So what can you do with Wikifunctions? You can create functions, you can write the implementations, and you can write also a set of tests that demonstrate what your functions should do. And you can do this for a number of different types. There's a series of native types that we started on with, like Boolean, strings, lists, and so on, but also Wikidata entities, any kind of items, statements, lexeme forms, and some Wikidata data types that we've recently added as well, like time, quantity, or location. And of course, this is one of the most interesting parts of all of this. You can use Wikifunctions from other wiki projects to, step through accomplishing that goal that we mentioned. So how interesting can functions get? This is always a good question. We started proving the system by using or creating very simple functions. So everything started with math, Boolean, string functions, which, prove a point. They don't get you really far in this goal, but they are great for, gathering interest and figuring out what the system can and cannot do. This is an example of one of them. This is a very simple negation function. And the screen that you can see, this is wikifunctions.org page for a function. So you can see some description and the signature of the function, the input and the output type that it will return. And also you can practice and you can explore these functions by setting some values, running the function, and seeing the output. So as I said, this is just a logic function, but in the scale of getting more interesting stuff, we can also start creating functions. We started creating functions that had NLG capabilities, that were able to produce human language. First, using only string inputs and outputs. So there's a few things that you can do with this. Obviously, you cannot do absolutely everything, but you can have a lot of simple examples. This one, for example, creates a plural noun out of a singular Basque noun. Sorry. So similar to before, we see the page for this function. We can practice, put some Basque noun, and we can see how it's pluralized. And this is really great. As I said, not everything can be done in the NLG realm. Not everything can be done by string concatenations, but this was great to gather interest in the communities, to gather a lot more people that knew different languages, contributing different NLG generating functions to Wikifunctions. So you can see here the catalog of functions maintained by our community. There's a bunch of languages. So if you click all of them, you can see all of the different functions that our community is creating for that. But of course, the most interesting part is to be able to access Wikidata entities and to navigate Wikidata entities to generate more complex stuff. So when we integrated Wikidata into Wikifunctions, things started getting a lot more interesting, a lot more fun for us and for our community. This is a little bit of the roadmap of how this happened. So we started integrating Wikidata entity types one by one on like a bit more than a year ago, in September 2024. So this meant that the Wikifunctions community could start building functions and exploring what they could do with these entities through Wikifunctions functions. But I think one of the biggest steps on the way is we started rolling out Wikifunctions integration into different Wikipedias, language Wikipedias and Wiktionaries. This means that you can integrate, you can use Wikifunctions functions from different articles, and those outputs will be shown in those articles. This was great in order to gather a lot of feedback, because nothing is perfect from the beginning, but this allowed us to collaborate with a lot of language communities, and it has been really, really helpful in order to iterate through the interfaces and so on. So the first integrations were only with simple types, just as a proof of concept, but we also enabled Wikidata types to be embedded through Wikifunctions in Wikipedias and Wiktionaries this summer. So that was quite recent. This is also very encouraging for the community to create a lot more functions that would be significant and useful in a Wikipedia context. Another of my favorite highlights is that now in embedded Wikifunctions in articles, we can use functions that output HTML, rich text, which means that you can create tables or nicer and more useful output. So as of today, well, as of yesterday, there were 473 functions using Wikidata types overall, either as inputs or as outputs or both. This just means that our community has been extremely busy. This is a quick view of our Wikidata operations page in the catalog. So there's a lot of functions that you can use in order to do a lot of operations and reach out through different properties. And yeah, it opens up a lot of examples, which we're going to see. So this is a very simple example using Wikidata lexemes. This allows anyone to select an English verb lexeme, and the function grabs the lexeme forms and outputs a string concatenation of the three English verb forms, which is a great example. But this is a nicer example. This is a German noun declension table. This leverages what I mentioned before. Outputs or functions that output HTML can also be embedded in articles. So this is a demonstration of how this function creates an HTML table with all the noun declensions, and this can be inserted. This is our interface for inserting functions with Visual Editor. So you can insert it, and I'll also configure the language in which this table is shown. There we go. But also, Wikifunctions using Wikidata types can start generating NLG, and this is kind of the road we want to go in, right? This is a very simple example. The output is an extremely simple sentence, but it shows how the input item can generate an NLG output in English, in this case, by following the P31 property. So this would grab the first instance, the first item linked with an P31 property, and just return that kind of short description classifying sentence, like in the example that you're seeing. So as I showed before in another example, you can insert this using Visual Editor. So you select whatever item you want to use, and you insert it in the page. You are seeing in the preview of Visual Editor, you're seeing the output of this function. And as you save this, the article will show the output of this function. But when this is saved, behind curtains, the way this is stored is just by referencing the function ID and the Wikidata item ID. So this is what this is the way this function is kind of represented, and that will output some literal or HTML that would be shown in the article. Now, it's very important to highlight this because very often we got this question, right? Like, this is this the output, what is being inserted in the article? Now, the important part of storing this function in the article is that this will be executed, it will be interpreted at every time the person is viewing this article, which means that data that is updated by, for example, new Wikidata properties doesn't need this function insertion to be modified in order to show new updated data. This is a very good example of this most recent year specific sentence about item. This is a quite a recent function that for a given Wikidata item and a given property with point-in-time qualifier, it constructs a sentence using the latest value stored in Wikidata. So whatever will be stored in, or whatever will be stored in the article is a reference to this function passing this two inputs. But then whenever there are new data in Wikidata, this will be shown in the output. So you select, for example, Morocco, the property reference urban population, and when you generate a sentence for that, it's just grabbing the latest data available in Wikidata, which is the 2022. This is at this particular point. So this kind of highlights what we are expecting to accomplish in the future. I mentioned before going into Wikifunctions and Wikidata integration Wikifunctions, the abstract content. Abstract content is this abstract representation of this idea. This is the way that I have chosen to represent this sentence. Jupiter is the largest planet in the solar system. But this sentence could be represented in many other ways. This is in the hands of the community. The community decides how they want to represent this abstract content. But we know that this abstract content behind curtains looks something like this. This is a link to a function, ZID, to function Wikifunctions, and these are links to the items that take place in these slots for this kind of superlative sentence. This can get more and more complex. You can join different slots. You can nest them in order to create paragraphs or even articles, whole sections and articles. So these are all the different pieces and how they work together. We have this abstract content we mentioned. This is a function call that you use in a separate project. We'll see this in the diagram before, and it is item specific. There's an abstract content for Jupiter, another for Mars, another for fish, another for Douglas Adams, and these are stored by the Wikidata QID. These are, of course, language independent. They're conceptual. And the functions, like in this case, the superlative, they are functions that are stored in Wikifunctions. Now, in Wikifunctions, you have these two different conceptually different types of functions. You have some functions that are language independent, like this superlative. It's called a constructor. This is the way we kind of choose to refer to it. And this can construct superlative utterances in any language that you select. So superlative for English will redirect to the English superlative function. These are the other types of functions that you have in Wikifunctions. These are called renderers, and they are language dependent. They use lexical data, and there's one of these per constructor and per language. So there's an English superlative function that knows how to create this kind of superlative sentence. And there's a Spanish superlative function that has the NLG knowledge to create this as well. And finally, this is able to output natural language in all different languages. So this is the way that everything fits together, right? Finally, this diagram is complete. So Abstract Wikipedia, the name is up for, decision in a near future, will be a separate project. This was something that was, there was a decision that was made very recently, thanks to, through a community-informed process. So the decision was Abstract Wiki will be its own separate project. It will have a domain, and the kind of top level or the abstract content for an item will be available in the page with that Wikidata item ID. This will use functions, constructors, and renders that are stored in Wikifunctions, and will leverage the Wikidata ontological knowledge and lexicographical knowledge in order to create all of this text. This is the whole schema, the great schema of things. There's one extra thing that I want to talk about, which is this Wikifunctions reference ZID data type. So this is a way for Wikidata to know and to link to Wikifunctions functions. And this is the way that this can be used. It's important to clarify, whatever way this can be used is in the hands of the Wikidata team, and is for them to kind of prioritize and implement. But this could be a possibility. Imagine a function that creates a short description for an album. This is a function that exists, so you can explore it later if you want. So for this album ID, it generates a short description in English or in German or in Spanish, or defaults kind of construction if there's no available renderer for that language. If, imagine in Wikidata, there would be an album that lacks a short description for a given language, Wikidata could decide to fall back to generate that abstract description from Wikifunctions in a given language. So that is kind of a fallback option that could be really, really cool. As I said, this already exists. It has a great contribution from our community. So I think now it has implementations for 4 or 5 languages. I'm not sure, I think 4. Recently Swedish as well. So this is really cool. You can add functions for short description in your languages, or you can also help communicating with the Wikidata team and helping them prioritize this feature if you like it. I'm just going to end this by looking a little bit at our future. This is the roadmap, kind of describes where we are now and what we want, where we want to be in the near and distant future, hopefully nearer. So as I mentioned, recently it was announced the decision of what is the location for the abstract content. The fact that the abstract content will live in its own separate project. The consultation started in May, and it was finally decided and communicated very, very recently. So also recently we started a naming contest. A lot of names have been added into the contest as suggestions. Those great suggestions. So I believe November the 3rd, there will be like a pre-selection. And by early 26, we'll have finally a name for this new project. So right now, what we're doing is just handling all of this and working on an MVP for this temporary name, Abstract Wikipedia. And some things that you can see in the future are hopefully abstract descriptions and glosses being part of Wikidata, the launch of Abstract Wiki MVP, and of course, in the future, another integration of now finally abstract content in Wikipedias. So this is everything for today. And well, thanks a lot for following me and well, get in touch, or ask any questions that you have. I'm going to check on the chat.
Thank you so much, Fenu. Yeah, great session. So we do have some comments in the chat. Salgo60 asks if there's a sample code how to use Wikifunctions from a Jupyter notebook.
Sorry, could you repeat the questions?
Of course. Salgo asks, is there sample code how to use Wikifunctions from a Jupyter notebook?
I can tell you. What I have done is that we have a hiking trail in Sweden with on 270 kilometers, and I have added 600 Wikidata objects connected to the trail. And I'm trying to build an application. Did you know? And about all the items. And it would be nice if I could plug in Wikifunctions. It's Python and Folium.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm not sure if there's sample code for that, but there are public APIs for Wikifunctions. So you very well could, if you knew what kind of functions you would be interested in, and you would be able to find those and navigate in wikifunctions.org, you'll see like, okay, I'm interested in this function. It would be fairly simple to elaborate an API call that you could call at and kind of handle the responses from there. If you want, you can get in touch with me. We can kind of go through an example. And if anyone from the community already has an example from a Jupyter notebook, I can ask and share it with you. But yeah, I think this is one of the great ideas that I think it would be. I mean, it was in our mind in order to use Wikifunctions for other things rather than only the abstract wiki goal, right? In natural language generation, integrated in Wikifunctions, like to be able to use Wikifunctions for other purposes. So yeah, feel free to contact me and we can work on this example.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. I see that Toha OMG, you have your hand up. Would you like to unmute your microphone? Or perhaps it's another applause. But they did ask in the chat if you could give a link to the album function. And maybe we can put that in the Etherpad if it's not already there.
Absolutely. I would try to do that.
It looks like
I will add that in the Etherpad. I just feel like my screen is blocked right now. I don't know why. Oh, there you go. So for anything like this that I have mentioned, you can just go to Wikifunctions and search short description for album, this one. And I'm just going to add this in the edit pad.
Thank you.
I'm going to send it in the chat and I'll do that.
Then Hisyam has their hand raised. Would you like to ask a question?
Yeah, can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you for the time. My name is Hisham. I come from Wikimedia Indonesia, and I'm actually currently attending Lisbon GlamWiki, and you can see me in the camera in the GlamWiki viewing room. I have one suggestion and one question. Previously, thank you for the amazing presentation. The first is suggestion. This project is really huge and complex, and it introduced a lot of new concepts and terminology. I just now read about superlatives, and also you mentioned ontologies, which is really difficult for newcomers who are alien to these complexities, and especially the complexities of technical aspects of Wikimedia projects. I truly hope that the community could create an introductory tutorial that address this complexity. That's the suggestion, and the question is, Wikifunction is really hard to learn. This is not from me, but from my friend who attend Wikimania in Wikimania Nairobi and participated in one of the Wikifunction workshops. He got void in his implementation test, and even after I listened to him explaining the Wikifunction and his trial, and also I asked another Indonesian people who dabbled in this Wikifunction. I could not understand a bit from this project, apart from just small understanding that this place for storing functions, and also and later you can use it in other projects. What are your tips in learning Wikifunctions? That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I am so sorry. I am aware of this. This is intrinsically a very technical project because it involves, as you said, a lot of very technical terminology and concepts. So something that I really appreciate this kind of feedback, and would love to hear like more detailed feedback, because this is the kind of thing that we need to hear in order to slowly cut that gap, close that gap in between like an extremely technical goal, which is creating functions that can execute it remotely and embedded and all that stuff, and use items from Wikidata into something that is more simple. My advice is please share this feedback, because this is really useful for changing this. This is an ongoing project, and we work on these, or kind of minimizing these challenges. Another advice is be part of the community. The community is super helpful. They're also very knowledgeable. They've been with us from like the beginning, where it was even more technically complex to create functions. So they know a lot. So ask for help. And I think one of my biggest suggestions is always start writing tests. So create a function definition that must do something that, you have a goal for a function, create that definition, think about the signature, the input and the output, and then create a load of tests. This is the way our mind works when programming, right? You're thinking what your function should do with a bunch of examples. You create those examples, and then you can experiment with the implementation if you want, if you have any JavaScript or Python knowledge. And when you're experimenting with that, reach out to the community, because they're super helpful. Yeah, this is my biggest advice in terms of like technical contributions that are low technical, but they want to kind of learn through the platform. I don't know if that makes sense.
Thank you. We do have a couple of hands up, but we really need to move on to the next session. So I want to thank you once again, Heno, Finn and Toha, if you want to write your questions in the Etherpad, and we'll try to make sure that Geno sees them and gets to answer them, and hopefully we can facilitate that dialogue.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.